Brooks, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
So this is my sixth interview. You're the first person I've talked to. No, this is my seventh. You're the first person I've talked to who I haven't known before today.
Yay!
So that's
That
pretty
makes me happy.
exciting.
And I'm lucky number 7. That's a good.
That's right, yeah. I squeezed that one in earlier today so that you could be
Yeah.
seven.
Well, see, I like that because tomorrow I turn 34, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So seven's a good vibe.
Okay, yeah, good
Yeah.
vibes. I asked Liz, and through Liz, she said to bring in 3 kind of bio facts about yourself. What are those? Can you share those with us?
One of them is that I am a 9th generation Texan. My great great grandfather was the governor of Texas from 1903 to 1907. So that's always like one of my really cool little fun tidbits.
That's awesome.
Governor Lanham, he was the last Confederate soldier to ever be a governor, and he is also the last governor we've had with a beard. So if you ever go to the Capitol,
Wow.
you start at our most recent and you go backwards, and when you see the first one with a beard,
We see the beard.
yeah. We also all look the same, so we all have that. That's one of my cool facts.
That's really cool.
One of my other cool facts is that I love research, and I do a lot of in-depth and sovereign type research for basically our public records because I'm in title insurance. But it's just one of those things where I absolutely love the research aspect of it. So that's not necessarily something people will equate with me being very hyperactive. They're like, oh, I don't think you would want to sit down and research for 8 hours a day. And I'm like, no, I actually enjoy the researching. It's also fun because it's the history books. And that then I guess ties into my third one. I'm obsessed with antiques and history and like older houses and stuff like that. And mainly simply because if I feel like strongly connected to like an antique or a house or anything like that, I like to think about everyone else in the past that was drawn to it and what were the features
Yeah.
that like drew it to us. Like my husband and I, our house was built in 1969, and we are the third owners of it. And it's a custom build because it's a really weird layout. The master bedroom is actually tucked away behind the kitchen and has a double entry into it, so it shuts off and it's dead quiet. And I just like to think that like there are 2 other women in like the world that existed with this house layout that were drawn to it. And so it's just like one of those where it's like I just hope in like the afterlife I get to like sit down with them and be like, what was it? Was it the built-ins for you? Because for me it was the built-ins
Right.
kind of thing. And then like knowing like what did you change? Because this is what I changed kind of thing. And so like to me that's just one of those things that's like I absolutely love that there was like character to the house that we were all drawn to that you don't necessarily get out of like newer ones.
I completely agree with you. I love a house that has a history to it. Yeah. All of your facts are sort of history based in
Yes.
some way.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I come from a family of big history people. I think I like to joke that now that we know that neurodivergence is genetic, looking back through my family can definitely confirm that because all of our hyperfixations are kind of the same. Like it's either all anatomy based or history based. And like if you're anatomy based, you fall under my grandmother's neurodivergence. If you're all history and date based, you go under my grandfather's kind of thing. And so it's really fun. But yeah, we're all just very history buffs. And I mean, how can you not? Like to me, it's one of those to like be better, you have to understand the past kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
there's really no way around it.
Yeah. You could do like a genealogy of your neurodivergence.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and very easily track it kind of
That's
thing.
funny.
My grandfather, we joke, so basically the joke in my family was always that my grandfather's hobby was hobbies.
Yeah.
And it's like, are we now aware of what that was now? And like, it would be something he would take on a hobby, master it, win an award, never do it again. Like he did knot tying. He tied a lot of like, I'm trying to see if you have glass bottles and jars like that. Way back when the sailors were on ships and stuff like that, they would tie them with really intricate knots to make sure that if they clanked, they wouldn't break. Then it became like an art form. Well, he learned how to do it and mastered it all within like 2 years, won an award. Also, he only had, I want to say it was on his left hand, almost all of his top knuckles had been removed one way or another from other hobbies and crafts and things like that. He started a jewelry company to put my my mom and aunt through private school, and then like kept it, and it's been inherited throughout different. I'm now the one that's in charge of it, and so it's like history and hobbies and neurodivergence are big in our little
Yeah,
family.
that's cool. The guy I interviewed 2 interviews ago, Tad, part of his interview, we talked about how he kind of tinkers and he called himself a dilettante. And we decided that we want to, I don't think this is on the interview, I think it was after when we were talking. We want to reclaim the word dilettante and make it have a positive connotation.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
someone who just, you have range, you're not a specialist, you're a generalist, you have
Yeah.
range of knowledge. And
Well, that's like the saying, master of none. It had been shortened down to make it sound like a negative one. But in turn, if you actually read the whole quote out, it's basically something along the lines of that. Like, basically, like, yeah, sure, I don't specialize in something, but I can do a little bit of everything.
yeah,
And I think is nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I like one of the things I was actually telling my husband about recently is going through and finding all of these quotes and sayings that have been like shortened and like how they'll mean not great things to us now, but when you go back and look up the original, you're like, oh, it was never meant to be that way. Like for one, a big one is the customer's always right. It's actually the customer's always right in matters of taste. So like the customer's not always right by getting to yell at you.
That's
But
fascinating.
if they want to buy an avocado green couch, you just give them that thumbs up. You
Yeah,
don't tell them
that's
it's bad
right.
taste. That's what the saying is for. It's not to let them treat you like garbage.
Not
think
just
they
they
can get away
have
with it.
carte blanche to act however
Exactly.
they want. Yeah.
It's that they're allowed to go, oh yeah, this is a beautiful couch. Like, and so it's one of those where I was like, ever since learning that, it's like, okay, cool. And I think it also gives you a little bit of ownership back in like letting that boundary be firm of like, no, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I like learning and doing a lot about those. I also love my parents, and they're boomers, and they are very, very progressive people. But every now and then, like those older sayings will come out, and I'll be like, "Oh, hey, let's talk about that saying.
Yeah.
Let's break it down." And they're just like, "Okay,
I've had similar looks from my mom.
yeah."
Okay, Brooks, we've arrived at the moment where you choose your question. Are you prepared to do so?
I am, and I like that it's the question. I'm a big Mario and
Yeah.
Luigi fan. I don't know if you saw one of my tattoos, but I have their
Oh,
hats.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So, anyone you want, but let me read it to you before you look at it.
I feel like that's a good one. And
That's
it
a
came
good
out
one,
of a
alright.
wad of them folded up, so I don't feel like it's been pulled.
Okay. There are 53 questions in there. This is
Okay.
number 2.
Oh,
What role, if any, does prayer play in your life?
oh, my mom's gonna be turning the volume up now. So my grandfather was a preacher. So
Same for me.
I don't. My grandfather and he's Presbyterian, so I like to tell people all the time that it was not the standard like Catholic, Southern Baptist, strict or anything like that. He was very chill, like chill kind of thing. And so prayer was never really something that was a force to do. I was always taught about prayer as more being like a conversation, to where like if you need to get something off your chest, if you want a guiding light or things like that. But one of the things that my family would really kind of like, they drilled on is prayer is never about request. So like they're like if you're trying to make like a specific request of like please let me do this, like they're like that's not really praying, that's more you just wanting a request kind of thing. So I don't really deal with it much now. I will say this, that I do have a little thing I do with my husband every time he leaves. The last words I allow him to hear are like, safe travels, you're the world's most precious cargo. I love you. You're my entire world, and I'd be lost without you. And I do treat that more as like a protective spell kind of thing, but there are times that like I will be in a rush when he's leaving because he and I have overlapping schedules. So we're getting ready for work simultaneously, and he'll need to leave, and I'll be like brushing my teeth or doing my hair, and so I won't get to say it to him. That I will find myself stopping in the middle of my house and going, please keep him safe today. Like just saying it out loud kind of thing. And I'll then go keep himself every day, but like specifically keep him safe today. And so I don't necessarily pray to like a specific entity as much as I do believe heavily in speaking it into reality. Like don't just let it be in your head. Like I like to joke that, the universe has a praise kink. It wants to hear what it's doing. It wants to be told. It doesn't want just to like
interesting.
assume kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like I try and be like, okay, please keep my husband safe today. And then when John will come home, I'll like go to the same spot and be like, thank you. Like kind of just general like gratitude and stuff like that. So I don't really necessarily know if it constitutes as prayer, but it's definitely something I use. I use it as more of like a like I want to like cast things out, and like these are the things that they're not necessarily requests as much as they're just like this is overall my hope for the day kind of
Right.
thing. And especially because my husband was in an accident in July, and now granted he was not hit so fast that he could have died, but had he been a second or two more delayed, he could have most likely lost a limb. And especially with how he was hit and things like that. And so that is one of those things that I do feel myself being a little bit more anxious about. Last October 27th was his birthday, and that was his first time driving into work. And I do remember thinking I held my breath all day, kind of thing, and like was overly obsessive. And I do felt like I kind of talked more to the universe then than I had in a long time, kind of thing. And more of like basically even just to distract myself, because it was really one of those things where I didn't want to talk to other people because I didn't necessarily want answers, and I didn't necessarily want to hear like it'll be okay, oh I'm so sorry you feel this way. I didn't want that as much as I just wanted to talk
Yeah.
and know it was going to be out,
Right.
kind of thing. And so like that's what I like doing, and I always feel guilty. I've done it before, like trying to talk to a person that way, but I feel guilty looking at them saying like I don't want you to respond. Like I don't even care if you don't listen to me. I just want to talk, kind of thing. And so I find that like I got a lot of more out of that during that time, and that I guess prayer than I have ever really before.
Right. I think my opinion of like spiritual matters, like this kind of thing, is that the umbrella or the tent that we put spiritual things that qualify as being spiritual, I think that tent should be as big as we can possibly make it.
Oh yeah.
And so as far as prayer, like I was raised that a prayer was you got on your knees and you talked to
Yeah.
the Christian God and brought your matters before him or whatever. And a lot of them were very specific requests for things. And but now I think really maybe not anything, but a lot of things can be prayers. Singing a song can be a prayer. Like
It's
you're
really
saying,
about the intent.
it's the intent. And I like the idea, what you were saying, of just having said it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes if we're just talking to someone, or like if you have an idea and you can't quite get it right in your head, if you just say it out loud, you'll be able to make sense out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think it's what the shower theory, where it's like a lot of people get their good ideas while they're in the shower because your brain is just shutting it down.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I absolutely was obsessed with my theater teacher. She was the coolest thing. Miss Jonas, love her to death, like just absolutely obsessed with her. And one of her favorite things to do, and I guess this was her version of prayer, is if you know like that you've got like a quandary or anything like that, to say it out loud and say like I don't know what I'm supposed to do about A, B, and C, and then just go on about your day and your life and just take in listening. And you might hear two strangers talking about something else, but they say your answer, kind of thing. Or you'll just be going on with a mindless mindset, and all of a sudden the answer is just right there in front of you of like what you need to be doing. And so like that's kind of like what I take it into, is like it's just out there, and you just are comforted by saying it and having it, so that way, you know, the universe could be like, here are all your signs, here's everything that you need, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just more being open to it, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, no, my grandfather, he was never big on the Christian God. Like he used to preach and tell people, and one of the things I remember is he always would put big on saying like your God, not our God or my God, it was your God, because he was kind of aware that like God means other things to other people,
Right.
kind of thing. Like I don't necessarily believe in a God, I believe in the universe. I do believe in like afterlife and things like that, but I also believe being a good person just to be a good person. Like I don't think you should be a good person for what you're going to get later on. Like no, just be good to be good. Like the world would be much better if we were just good to be good.
Yeah. It's being good is its own reward.
Exactly. Like I love the fact that I can go to bed at night knowing I didn't make anyone cry.
Yes.
Like I don't understand how there are some people that like they want people to be afraid of them. I don't want that. Like I don't get that. Like I don't mind people being like, oh well, you're intimidating, and then being like, oh well, let's break it down because I'm really not, kind of thing. But like I don't want people to see me coming into a store and a clerk wanting to go hide because they don't want to have to deal with me.
Right.
And so it's like, those are things I can't fathom. I'm like, no, I want to be a nice person and be good just to be good, kind of thing.
Do you pray before meals like Thanksgiving?
So my family does, and normally, normally kind of like my little revolt is that I keep my head up. I'll hold hands and everything like that, but like I won't bow my head and pray. One, I don't necessarily see the reason in thanking God for food. Like science is kind of behind like how we have the food, and God wasn't down here helping all the women cook all day. Like, and so it's one of those where it's like I don't really feel the need to thank a higher power or an entity or anything like that for something that's standard. It's kind of like I don't love when people pray right before they go have a baby, because to quote Kevin, does God have a medical degree? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like I don't like when people are like, well, it's in God's hands now. It's like, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Like, and so that's where we don't necessarily like pray before food. But on the other hand, I will be like grateful every now and then and like sit back and think like the life I'm living and think about how much I love it, kind of thing. And so like it's not necessarily like thanking God and all that, but like being grateful for and like being aware of everything I have and knowing that I could have made a different decision at any point in my life, and I just got lucky and the decisions I've made have led me here, kind of thing. And so I will be grateful for those, and I'll be grateful for the universe for like the paths that I could have picked from, but I'm not gonna sit there and go, thank you for my turkey. Like,
Yeah.
whereas my family, they still do. And that's one of those things that I joke that is like the generational divide, because like my cousins, we don't. There's also only 5 cousins total, 6 cousins total. 5. I'm bad at math on that one, because I am being in the South. I'm used to hearing people that have like 38 cousins and things like that. And so like, and then I have people that their cousins, like I want to say Liz is one of them, where she's got cousins in age range from like 2 to in their upper 30s. My cousins, we're 4 years all apart, like from start to finish, kind of thing, or maybe 5 years. We're all very close in age, and so, but we're all roughly kind of that same mentality of like, okay, like, cool.
You mentioned being grateful a couple of times. I think, to me, there are certain aspects that any mature person that I've ever known, like a person that I really admire who seems to have matured and gained some sort of wisdom, they share common characteristics, and one of those is gratitude.
Yeah.
The ability to be grateful for things. And it occurs to me that the more I've kind of moved away from that old school way of praying when I was a kid, the more gratitude has entered into my life.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing that I talk to my husband about a lot, is like, I am aware that everything I have can be gone in a minute, and I'm aware of everything that I have could have never been given to me. And this is really cheesy, but like one of my favorite sayings, and I have many favorite sayings, but kind of due to my neurodivergence, I have to like basically like equating being alive with different sayings, kind of thing, to remind myself like, oh, that's right, I'm a human, like act as a human, kind of thing. And one of them is it's Andy's saying from the end of The Office about the good old days. You don't know you were in the good old days until you're out of them. I've made it clear, and I even told Liz this recently, I'm aware I'm in the good old days now. Yeah. And that's such a blessing. Yes. I know there are going to be phenomenal days ahead. I know that I'm not done having it, but I'm also very aware that this is the time I'm going to look back on and being like, yeah, that was the time where it was great. And so it allows me to also be a lot more in the moment, kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas I felt like in my 20s, it was constantly like, oh, well, when I get there, when I get to that moment, when I feel like that, like that's when I'll feel it. And so now it's like, there's no more when I get there. I'm like allowing myself to be aware of like, you're there, be there, kind of thing.
And if you can,
I was going to say that helps with the gratitude.
Yes, exactly. And if a person can live in that state where they're really present and they really kind of appreciate moments that they're living in, like, you kind of don't need prayer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Is it's like I'm not having to ask to be taken away. I'm not asking to have to go somewhere. I'm not in danger, and I'm really thankful for that. And so because of that, I just get to be grateful. And so it's one of those that I also attribute to the fact that like my mom was really clear when I was younger of like, no one's ever going to save you. like you have to save yourself. And so that there are some times that, and this might upset people and I don't mean it to, that I do feel like the Christian type prayer is because they don't want to save themselves. They do want to be saved by someone else. So instead of me having to go in and do the work to pull me out of my depression or to pull me out of the bad situation or anything like that, or to go even ask for help, instead I can just push it off to be prayer. Like, well, I have to wait now because I've asked for it in prayer. When it's like, well, but you can do that, but know that you can still go out and ask for help from other people.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's kind of where sometimes I feel like some people, some Christians, like hardcore, deep, devout Christians, will use that as like their excuse to not have to work on themselves.
Yeah.
Because I prayed about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but you still have to do the work. Like,
I think you're absolutely right. I
Yeah.
think it's prayer in that sense. I think it's half the time it's convenience, and the other half is like fear-based living.
oh yeah, it's like I kind of view it the same with therapy. Of like, you can go to therapy all day long and be told like these are the things to work on to help yourself get better, but if you don't do them when you leave, then why are you doing it? At that point, you're just paying someone to listen to you talk, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I feel about prayer. Is like, you know, you have to actively work to want to, you know, make yourself better, to like just be grateful for things, kind of thing.
If you, like the older members of your family, what do you think they would say in response to the
Oh,
answers that you've just given?
well, one, my grandfather so my grandfather had a vast array of careers. He was a attorney. He was technically, his first job ever was a devil's apprentice, which I don't know if you know anything about that, but basically they're the kids that were part of printing newspapers,
Okay.
basically. And my grandparents were born at the tail end of the Great Depression, so they had little odd and ends jobs, but necessarily weren't having to work like crazy things. But then he was a lawyer, and then he says he fell from law and went to grace by becoming a preacher. I think it was, my mom was born in '64, so it was '64. He would absolutely love it. He loved when people wanted to debate religion and get into it, because the way he felt is that there was no one religion. He's like, no one has the one, there is no one set God, there's no one's right. Like, basically his views on religion were no one's wrong and no one's right. Like, and so he would absolutely love it, and he would want to conversate more. My grandmother was the same way. She absolutely loved people having opinions and expressing them. And even if she didn't necessarily believe with them, as long as they weren't like detrimental to other people, she would have no problem debating them. But if it was one of those ones where it's like, oh, you're not okay with that and it hurts someone's safety, I'm not entertaining that. But like, if it was something like what I said about how, you know, being grateful and things like that, but not necessarily praying, she would love that, and she'd go more in depth on it. And then she would be like, oh, well, that's how I pray, and things like that. Now, I will say this, like my mom and grandparents, they do say, oh, thank God, a lot more. Like, and I don't think they say it as like just a natural reaction, as more of a actual feeling, like, oh, thank God for this moment, thank God for this. And I'm just like, okay. Like, my mom, she is a Texas girl through and through. She's a Sunset lady, and I'm pointing to your window. That's why I'm turning around. And so she will...
Because the sunset is out there?
Yeah, it's out there.
It's
exactly.
out there somewhere.
She will post a picture of a sunset every single day and say, God's country, thank God for Texas, things like that. And to me, it's like, okay. But she necessarily also isn't someone that shuts people down by thinking like, oh, well, if you don't believe in religion, then you're not a good person. She like loves entertaining it and loves hearing it. She's super supportive. So she will, though, equate things that I do to try and be like, equate it to religion in her mind, just so that way she can understand it more. So like when the other day, or not the other day, it's been probably 3 or 4 years, but like I was having a conversation with the universe and she overheard it and she was like, I didn't know you prayed. And I was like, oh, I don't. I was like, I was just talking to the universe. She goes, well, that's what I do. It's just prayer. It's kind of like what I do. And I'm like, yeah. You started off with, dear God, though. I don't. Like, it's just, I just start talking. And so it's one of those that's, I guess, how she's supportive, and I really do appreciate that and things like that.
Yeah.
So that is nice. But I don't think any of them would ever be bothered. My uncle, he actually just retired from being a minister. And one of the things that I absolutely loved he did right before my husband and I got married, and we were doing like the pre-marriage counseling and all that, he was like, hey, I'm just going to be upfront with y'all. I'm still on my path with religion, and I'm still learning about religion and how I feel about it every single day. If that bothers you, please let me know. And we were like, no, like that's it. Like, to me, hearing him say that, honestly, just like gives even more comfort of knowing that like I don't believe in religion, because here's someone who was called into it, went to work through it, and here he is 30 plus years into his career, and he's still like going, hey, I got questions, and I'm
Yeah.
still questioning stuff. And so then it just makes me go, yeah, cool. So I'm allowed to have questions all my entire life, because
Yeah.
I feel like there's always this like connotation of like you can't have questions past a certain age.
Yeah.
And so, and like I, being neurodivergent, I don't like being told just to believe. Like that was always one of my issues with religion in general, was when people would be like, well, just believe. Like, but why? Like,
Yeah.
cool, I'm going to just believe this car's going to fly. It does not mean it's going to take off.
That asking, but why, that got me into a lot of trouble when I was
Yeah.
a kid. And it wasn't in an effort to negate what I was being taught. I was trying to understand it better.
Yeah.
And I felt like by asking why, I was going to get closer to what they wanted me to experience. But they took it as a sign of unbelief or doubt or whatever.
Yeah, my grandfather, he was one that he would preach like sometimes just believe, but he would then back it up with saying like, but your questions are valid. And and if you don't want to believe, you don't have to believe. But like that was basically his way of saying like, I don't know. I don't know why it's this way. But I will say this, my family, they did not, and they still don't believe that God is all powerful and all knowing and all good. Like they're a very, like what they believe in as God is more of like an individual type entity that has its own struggles across the board. And so I know that some faiths believe that God is like all powerful, all knowing, all good. And in my family, they're like, no. Like they think that in my family, they all believe that, you know, willpower and free will is the highest ranking thing. They were like, so that's because we have that, there is no all powerful entity that can control everything, because we've got free will and willpower and all of that. And so that I do think is a good mindset to have. I don't think it's necessarily a great mindset to think that if you pray and you believe in God that like everything's gonna happen exactly as you want, kind of thing, because there is
Right.
free will.
Right.
Like, and there is science. I mean, I can't control that some people are born with a high amount of cancer producing cells that unfortunately a baby gets cancer right away. Like, I don't think that there was an entity that had that. It was
Yeah.
just science. It just bad set of science, unfortunately.
Yeah. What do you think your first generation Texas family, how do you think they prayed?
I want to say, so they were the Brookses. That's how long, that's a family name. And I want to say,
Do you
that
know
they-
what year they would have come to Texas?
So I know that they were here before. I know that the first round of Texans, Brookses, I believe they came over into Texas when we were still a country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was between 1836 and 1845.
Yes, but then so that's the fun fact, is a lot of people think that the governor is where the lineage comes from, and it's not. He was actually from South Carolina. And so the Lanham side is only, I want to say like 3 or 4 generations in, but it's the Brooks side where we go all the way back to 9. They, I want to say though, were devout Christians. But I will say this, my family, we retain all of our history, so we've got letters and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that they were devout Christians because that's truly what they believed. I think that's what society made them believe.
Right.
So reading like their letters and things like that, like there's one, she is my great aunt, and I'm blanking on her name, but basically she was in school doing a debate and had to write an entire paper on why women should be in the medical field, but her teacher, being kind of a jerk, gave her the negative and said, no, you need to argue as to why women should not be in the medical field. And she did it beautifully, just ripping men to shreds about how women are so much more nurturing, and that can't be good for the medical field, and women have tinier hands, and
That's awesome.
yeah, all this funny stuff. And the best part was, is she ended it with saying, men will not be completely removed from the medical field. In fact, women, we're too dainty to move the bodies. And so it's just one of those where it's like, oh, okay, this was written in like the 1800s. Something tells me that they were probably not believing because the Christian values, because that's what they truly believed in their heart of hearts, but because it's what they felt like they had to believe.
Right.
There are a few women in my family that married older, like when they were in their late 20s, and again, back then that was super older.
Yeah.
Their husband died young, and they did not remarry. They spent the rest of their life traveling on his dime and stuff like that. And so it's just one of those where it then further backs up like, oh, okay, so were a lot of gung-ho people in my lineage that were probably not like, they were probably like, hey, this doesn't feel right, but I can't necessarily voice that something's not right, so I'm just going to kind of follow the lines kind of thing.
It's kind of like, it was just kind of a fact of your life. I think, I don't really guess. It's like if you're from Boston, you root for the Red Sox. Like it was a practical thing. You went to church, but my guess is that back then it was just more, I mean, it's much more, survival's much more on kind of the knife's edge than now. And like the luxury of prayer, you got stuff to do.
Yeah.
You can't kind of sit around worrying about things and trying to think of things to pray about.
Exactly.
It seemed like, I'm sorry, prayer just seems like a much more practical part of living back then, I guess.
Exactly. And I think also back then too, there was no knowledge on how to save yourself.
Right.
So it was that I have to pray to hopefully get out of it. Like, I don't know how to get out of this bad situation. So maybe if I do pray, something will happen. And whereas now we have like science and we have all these other outlets and things like that. And so I do agree with you. I think back then there was no other way. But like, I know one of the things that my grandfather absolutely loved doing is going into areas where the church had been kind of snobby and completely revamping that. And so like, I know one of his big churches he was in Houston was St. Philip's, and he was there for 10 years. And it was kind of known as like a snobby elite church. And my grandfather, like one of his very big things is they had a sign up that says all are welcome. And he would talk about all, like homeless, gay people, lesbian people, like any race, any gender. He's like, all are welcome. And then after that, before they were at St. Philip's, my mom was born in Waco. They then moved to Galveston for 2 or 3 years. And my grandfather started a church out there that was not out there at all, but went and basically would like go out to the piers and just sit on the boats and talk with the fishermen. The fishermen that kind of had felt like they had been like outcast and things like that. Simply because like I know one of them whose name I'm forgetting, but we have an adorable picture with him smiling next to my grandfather. He did not speak English very clearly. Like I think he dropped out of school at a young age, and so he had very obvious, like his vocabulary was very limited. And so he a lot of times felt embarrassed talking to like religious people because they were kind of uppity. And my grandfather would literally open beers with him and sit there. And like my grandfather also, it was not just purely to be good. He had a little selfish in it. He loves shucking oysters and eating them. So of course he's going to make friends with fishermen because he can, one, have great conversation with them. He can just be relaxed and chilled. He doesn't have to be uppity or anything like that. And he can shuck oysters that literally were just caught 10 minutes ago. Like, great
That's
thing.
awesome.
And my grandmother was that kind of a preacher's wife too. So she was not the stereotypical preacher's wife. I remember one time she was telling me that she got caught in the local, I'm going to call it a Winn-Dixie because I think that's the kind of grocery store it was, barefoot in cutoff shorts. Just like, and one of the parishioners walked up to them and she just like didn't even hide the fact that she's there in cutoff shorts and a t-shirt. And so it was one of those that she made it very clear to people, like, I am not the Stepford preacher's wife. I am the realistic teacher preacher's wife.
If someone wanted to pray for you, how would you want for them to pray for you?
So it would more just be for overall happiness. Like, that's really, because like I don't really want them to like say like, oh, can you pray for her to get this job, or can you pray that she can get this project finished, kind of thing. Like, it would just be, if you want to pray for me, just pray like for general happiness and just like overall making sure that life stays as it is. I mean, like, I won't lie, I do tell people that I am aware I'm in the good old days, so much so that I do feel heightened anxiety about when is it going to get taken away. So those are things that's like, just pray that way then. Like, keep everything good. Say that she's really enjoying her life and so she doesn't need, kind of thing. But like, I also think that like praying too is like talking to people in the afterlife too. I think you can do that. Like I've said before, I think I said on here, is I do believe in an afterlife. I don't think that we just kaput. Like, I think that it definitely goes on, kind of thing. And so that's where just, if people are going to pray for me, pray for happiness and pray that I get to stay happy.
It's like thinking about when we broadcast things, those signals go on and on and on out into space forever and ever.
Oh yeah. That's like, have you ever looked up like the like link and not link, but basically how stars are all aligned and how you see like the stars and the patterns in the sky and how that kind of like mirrors our neurons in our brain. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, we are all like this functioning thing and we all need to, and so it is kind of just like cool stuff. Like I also just watched Men in Black, so I still have that. I think it was Men in Black too. So I have the locker mindset on my brain where he just opens the locker door and all of a sudden you see that we're like, oh my God, we're in someone's locker.
Yeah,
like,
that's
so it's
cool.
cool stuff like that.
Yeah. Brooks, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It occurs to me when I've made these into YouTube videos, I label this segment the benediction. So that fits in with our
Yeah, that works.
our prayerful question comment. So please offer our benediction for us, if you will.
So earlier I mentioned that I like to use a lot of quotes and stuff to kind of like remind myself that I'm human and like kind of keep functioning. And one of my favorite authors, illustrators growing up was Bill Waterston, the author of, creator of Calvin and Hobbes. And I just also loved Calvin, especially because I was undiagnosed ADHD. So I'm not like Liz, where I would consider Liz a late in life diagnosis. I got diagnosed when I was 17. So I was late in life for like kid being diagnosed, but I was early in life for like most women. So I'm really grateful on that. But I always associated a lot with Calvin because he clearly had ADHD, but that's back when they did not know that you could have different types of ADHD. So I very much have like the internal ADHD. And so I was very comforted by the fact that he constantly had his own life going on that no one was aware of, and that he wasn't necessarily ever really in trouble for. Like he would do things to get in trouble. He was not a crime-free kid whatsoever, but that he was never like, oh, you're just a bad kid. Like it was like you're making bad decisions and things like that. And so that, but like also you're able to see his life and see like how he does it, pardon me, necessarily always know how to mesh the two. And he gets overwhelmed and things like that. And then how, when he gets severely into trouble or when he's wanting to severely be mischievous, he goes into his spaceship world and things like that. And so it's just cool stuff like that I loved the book. But one of my absolute favorite quotes comes from it, and it's the one about how I think it starts off with, and I know other people have said it, but I like Bill Waterston's version, is it's weird, day to day nothing seems to change, but pretty soon everything's different. And that's kind of how I feel. Is like I feel like, day to day nothing really changes crazy, like major. But if you look at yourself a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, everything is so drastically different. And I usually kind of use that as a guide of like, if I'm looking back on a year or two and nothing's different, then I need to like, again, step in and save myself, because that means that I'm kind of not necessarily living my life. I'm just sitting around and waiting for the next day to happen, kind of thing.
So you're imagining yourself in the future, looking back on the time that has passed.
Yeah, especially because, I constantly, being younger and as a teenager, really up until I want to say these last 3 or 4 years, I was constantly living in the future. And that's also an ADHD trait. So it was one of those of having to learn about ADHD of like, I don't necessarily always have to live in the future. I can allow myself to be in the present. And that quote kind of helps that of like, hey, make sure you're doing enough in today that you feel like you're accomplishing things and like you're doing what you need to, and stop just trying to live in the future. Like live in the, like, making everything, like, I think another saying they like to use, a lot of people use, is like, stop living for the weekends. Like, have fun today. Like, you can't only just have fun on Saturday and Sunday. You can have fun on Monday, kind of thing.
Right.
And so that's one of those that I feel like that Bill Waterston quote allows me to kind of like live in that mindset of like, hey, things are going to change, but you have to do something, but things are going to change, kind of thing. And so that's really nice. There's comfort in that. And like, in also knowing that like nothing's forever and permanent, because like I know Liz's, she talked about the anxiety she has around her mom or her dad dying, or not dad, Kevin dying, kind of thing. And so I was texting her that I too share that massive anxiety. And one of the things that I always have to like remind myself too of like, you can survive it. Like, one, you could die before him, so there is always that. And actually, that was something I put in our wedding vows, is I made him promise me I get to die first, kind of thing. And so, but the other thing I always remind myself of was like, yeah, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna suck, but like, it's not gonna be forever. Like, you're gonna move on. Like, you're gonna get through it, kind of thing. And so that's one of those quotes, again, that powers you through it of like, yeah, sure, right now in the thick of it, nothing seems to change. But, looking back in 6 months, you're gonna be like, oh my God, everything is different.
Yeah.